The year was 2347, and humanity had finally reached the star's ambassador. Daniel Price stood before the towering crystalline spires of the Galactic Council chamber on Nexus Prime. This was the political heart of 1,000 civilizations. He was 53 years old, with gray hair at his temples and the kind of calm face that had served him well through 30 years of diplomatic work on Earth. Now he stood here to represent all 8 billion people back home. The chamber stretched impossibly high above him. Its walls were alive with glowing patterns that shifted with the moods of the assembled delegates. 12 alien species sat in judgment around him. Their forms ranged from the insect-like Kethra, their clicking mandibles, to the gaseous Volmori contained within floating magnetic spheres. At the center of it all sat High Arbiter Zinveth of the Archon Dominion. He was a being of pale blue flesh, with 4 black eyes that reflected nothing. Those eyes watched Daniel with cold interest. Daniel took a deep breath and stepped forward. His dress uniform was crisp and clean. The flag of United Earth was stitched over his heart. He had prepared for this moment his entire career. High Arbiter Zinveth spoke first. His voice came through the neural implant behind Daniel's ear in perfect English. You come before this council seeking membership. Yet humanity is young. Barely 3 centuries since you left your cradle world. What do you offer us? Daniel kept his voice steady and clear. We offer partnership, trade, cultural exchange, scientific collaboration. Humanity has achieved faster than light travel. We have cured our genetic diseases. We have unified our world after thousands of years of conflict. We come not as conquerors, but as neighbors seeking friendship. A ripple of amusement passed through the assembly. The Kethra delegate clicked its mandibles in what Daniel's implant registered as mockery. Neighbors, the insect creature repeated. You speak as equals human. You are not equals. Your species numbers in the billions. Ours number in the trillions. Your fleet consists of 47 vessels. The Archon Dominion alone commands 900,000 warships. Daniel refused to show any fear. Numbers do not define worth, delegate. We offer what we are. High Arbiter Zinveth leaned forward on his throne. Those 4 black eyes seemed to drill into Daniel's soul. What you are is a species that spent most of its existence killing itself. Your history is written in blood. We have watched you, Ambassador Price. Your wars, your cruelties, the atomic fires you unleashed upon your own kind. And we survived them, Daniel replied. We learned from them. We grew beyond them. Did you? Zinveth's tone carried something cold and dangerous. Or did you simply find no one left worth killing until now? The chamber fell completely silent. Daniel felt the weight of 1,000 alien gazes pressing down on him like a physical force. He swallowed hard, but kept his head high. Humanity petitions for provisional membership in this council, Daniel said firmly. We ask only for the chance to prove ourselves worthy of that honor. Zinveth exchanged glances with the other council members. Something unspoken passed between them in that moment. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine despite his climate-controlled suit. Something was very wrong here. Very well, the High Arbiter finally said. The council will deliberate on your request. You will have our answer within 3 cycles. You may return to your vessel. Daniel bowed respectfully and turned to leave the chamber. He walked slowly and calmly, though every instinct screamed at him to run. The doors seemed impossibly far away. His footsteps echoed in the vast space. He never reached them. The Archon guards moved faster than any human could react. 4 of them seized Daniel from behind and forced him to his knees in the center of the chamber. His arms were pinned. His head was pushed down. He struggled, but their grip was like iron. What is this? Daniel shouted. I am a diplomatic envoy. This violates every law of ... Silence, Zinveth commanded. The word cut through the air like a blade. The council has already reached its decision, Ambassador Price. We deliberated long before you ever arrived here. Daniel's blood ran cold. What decision? The High Arbiter rose from his seat and descended the steps toward the kneeling human. His robes swept the floor behind him. His 4 eyes showed no emotion at all. Humanity's petition for membership is denied, Zinveth announced. Your species has been judged too dangerous for integration into galactic civilization. By unanimous decision of this council, Earth is hereby sentenced to permanent quarantine. No human vessel will be permitted to cross the established boundary. Any that attempt to do so will be destroyed without warning. You cannot do this. Daniel struggled harder against his captors. We came in peace. We offered friendship. You offered nothing but the promise of future violence. Zinveth stopped directly in front of Daniel and looked down at him. We have seen species like yours before, aggressive, ambitious, hungry. You would smile and trade. With us for a century, then turn your weapons upon us when you felt strong enough. We are simply preventing that future from occurring. Oh, this is madness. At least let me return to Earth and deliver your message. Let me. There is no need for a messenger, Zinveth interrupted. Your people will receive our decision clearly enough. He raised one pale hand, and an Archon guard stepped forward, carrying a long curved blade that gleamed under the chamber's lights. Daniel stared at it with growing horror. Oh, he whispered, Please, I have a family. I have. The council thanks you for your service as a demonstration, Zinveth said coldly. Your death will send a message that your words never could, Daniel Price screamed. On Earth 3 days later, Admiral Grace Holloway received the transmission at 0347 hours. She was 61 years old with silver hair cut short and eyes the color of storm clouds. She had commanded humanity's defense forces for 15 years and had always hoped she would never need to use them for real. War. The message contained 2 images. The first showed Daniel Price kneeling in the council chamber surrounded by guards. The second showed his headless body discarded on the polished floor like garbage. The alien delegates watched from their seats in the background. None of them showed any reaction at all. A text message followed, translated into cold clinical English. Humanity's petition is denied. Your species is deemed too dangerous for integration. Earth is sentenced to quarantine indefinitely. Any human vessel crossing the boundary will be destroyed. This is not negotiable. This is law. Admiral Holloway stared at the images for a very long time. Her hands did not shake. Her breathing remained steady and controlled. She had known Daniel Price for 20 years. He had been at her wedding. He had held her daughter when she was born. He had been one of the kindest men she had ever known. Now he was dead, murdered, executed like a criminal for the crime of asking for friendship. Holloway closed the transmission and opened a secure channel. To the 12 other members of United Earth's High Command, they were scattered across the planet and its orbital stations. Convene Protocol Summit, she said quietly. Authorization, Omega-7. Immediate priority. Within 1 hour, the most powerful humans alive gathered in a bunker, 3 kilometers beneath the Swiss Alps. President Marcus Cole presided over the meeting. He was 67 years old, with white hair and tired eyes. He had never wanted war, but he understood its necessity. They reviewed the evidence together. They confirmed the transmission was authentic. They watched Daniel die again and again on the screens before them. And then, President Cole spoke the words that would change everything. They executed our ambassador in cold blood. They have declared us prisoners on our own world without trial or appeal or any chance to defend ourselves. He paused and looked at each face around the table. What is our response? Admiral Holloway answered without any hesitation at all. Annihilation Protocol, HFY, sir. We prepared it for exactly this scenario. The room went completely still. Every person there knew what those words meant. Protocol HFY had been developed in absolute secrecy over the past 50 years. It began the moment humanity first detected signs of intelligent life beyond Earth. It was the contingency plan of last resort. It was built on a single, terrifying idea. If humanity could not live among the stars as partners, then humanity would not allow itself to be caged like animals. If the galaxy wanted monsters, then humanity would show them what monsters truly looked like. The protocol requires unanimous approval from High Command. President Cole said. 12 hands rose around the table. Not a single person refused. Then it is decided. Cole's voice was barely above a whisper now. Begin implementation immediately. Silent running. No transmissions. No warnings. No declarations of war. We will not tell them what is coming. They will simply wake one day to find death at their doorstep. Admiral Holloway nodded slowly and opened her personal communicator. This is Holloway to all fleet commands. Activate Protocol HFY, effective immediately. Acknowledge receipt. With silence only. Across the solar system and shipyards hidden within asteroid fields and beneath the frozen moons of Jupiter, and Saturn ships that had never been meant to exist began to wake from their long slumber. Not 47 vessels, as the Council believed. Not even 100. 4,712 warships built in complete secrecy over 5 decades started, powering up their engines. They were crewed by men and women who had trained their entire lives for a day they had. 6 months passed after the execution of Ambassador Daniel Price. The Galactic Council considered the matter of humanity completely closed. Their sensor networks watched the quarantine zone around Earth every single day. Their listening posts picked up only routine transmissions from the human homeworld. Civilian chatter. Entertainment broadcasts. The mundane noise of a species that had accepted its prison. The Council had expected fury from the humans. They had expected threats and angry speeches. Perhaps they had even expected a small and foolish military response that would give them justification to wipe humanity out completely. Instead, they received nothing at all. They have accepted their fate. Counselor Methrix at the Kethra declared during a routine council session. His mandibles clicked with satisfaction as he spoke, as all inferior species eventually do. The humans understand now that they cannot challenge our power. The other delegates murmured in agreement. The matter was settled. Humanity was contained. The galaxy could move on to more important things. But High Arbiter Zinveth was not so certain. He sat in his private chambers that night and stared out at the stars. Sleep would not come to him. A feeling he had not experienced in centuries kept, crawling through his mind like a parasite, fear. He could not explain why he felt this way. His personal guards stood at their posts outside his door. The station's shields were fully operational. The Archon fleet patrolled nearby space in overwhelming numbers. Everything was exactly as it should be, and yet something felt terribly wrong. Zinveth had studied humanity extensively before ordering the execution of their ambassador. He knew their history better than most of his fellow council members. He knew about their wars and their weapons. He knew about their capacity for patience and planning. He knew about their talent for vengeance. Humans did not forgive. Humans did not forget. And humans were very, very good at waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The High Arbiter rose from his resting platform and summoned his military. Commander, double the patrols. Along the quarantine boundary, he ordered an increased surveillance on the human home system. I want to know every ship that moves and every signal that broadcasts. His commander obeyed without question, though he clearly considered the order excessive. The humans had only 47 ships. What could they possibly do against the combined might of the Galactic Council? Zinveth wished he shared that confidence. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, something was moving. He could feel it in his bones, even if he could not see it on any sensor screen. The humans were planning something, he just could not figure out what. Captain Nathan Grant commanded the Resolute. It was one of the 47 official vessels in Earth's fleet. On paper, Nathan was running a routine patrol along the outer edges of the solar system. His mission was simple and boring. He was supposed to show the Council that humanity accepted its quarantine and had no plans to resist. In reality, Nathan was coordinating the largest military operation in human history. He stood on the bridge of the Resolute and watched the stars. Through the main view screen, he was 38 years old with dark hair and sharp blue eyes. He was young for a captain, but he had earned his rank through brilliance and dedication. His crew of 200 trusted him completely. They needed that trust now more than ever. "Status report," Nathan said quietly. His executive officer, Commander Lisa Park, consulted her displays. She was a woman of Korean descent with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind. She had served with Nathan for 5 years, and there was no one he trusted more. "All Shadow Fleet elements are in position along the primary approach vectors," Lisa reported. "The Council sensors have detected nothing. Our stealth systems are working perfectly." Nathan nodded slowly. The ships of Protocol HFY had been designed for one single purpose: to be completely invisible. Humanity's engineers had spent 50 years studying every known alien sensor technology. They had developed countermeasures for all of them. The Shadow Fleet could pass within 1,000 kilometers of an Archon, its battleship, and never be detected. Nearly 5,000 warships were now spread across Council space. They had traveled for months in absolute silence. They had moved through enemy territory like ghosts, and not a single alien civilization had any idea they were there. "What about the infiltration teams?" Nathan asked. Lisa checked another display. "Teams Alpha through Sigma are embedded on 17 Council worlds. They have been in position for 3 months now. All of them are waiting for the signal." Nathan closed his eyes for a moment. Those teams consisted of volunteers who knew they might never return home. Men and women who had undergone genetic modification to disguise themselves as various alien species. They had spent years learning alien languages and cultures. They had infiltrated the very heart of the Galactic Council's civilization. Now they waited in the shadows ready to strike. "The Prometheus device?" Nathan asked. Lisa's expression flickered with something that might have been fear. "Dr. Helen Morris confirms the device is fully operational. It is aboard the Vanguard and ready for deployment on your command." The Prometheus device. Nathan did not like to think about it too much. It was humanity's ultimate weapon, a technology so terrible that even the Council did not possess anything like it. A star killer. "Send my acknowledgement to Admiral Holloway," Nathan ordered. "Tell her we proceed exactly as planned." "Yes, sir." Lisa hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "Nathan, are we really going to do this? Once we start, there is no going back. The galaxy will never be the same." Nathan thought about Daniel Price. He remembered the kindly diplomat who had taught him to play chess during a long voyage between colonies years ago. He remembered the man's gentle smile and patient voice. Then he remembered the image of Daniel's headless body thrown on the Council. Floor like garbage. "They drew first blood, Lisa. They declared us to. Dangerous to exist. And then they murdered an unarmed man whose only crime was asking for friendship." Nathan's jaw tightened as he spoke. "We are going to show them what dangerous really looks like." Lisa nodded slowly. She understood. They all understood. The Council had made its choice. Now humanity would make theirs. On Nexus Prime High Arbiter, Zinveth continued his sleepless nights. His servants noticed that he had become irritable and paranoid. He demanded constant updates from his intelligence services. He ordered more ships to patrol the quarantine zone. He reviewed the sensor logs personally every single day. His advisors began to whisper that the stress of leadership was affecting his mind. The humans were contained. There was nothing to fear. Why was the High Arbiter so worried about a species with only 47 ships? Zinveth ignored their whispers. He knew something they did not. He had looked into Daniel Price's eyes in the moment before the execution. He had expected to see fear and desperation. He had expected begging and pleading. Instead, he had seen something else entirely. Certainty. Daniel Price had died with absolute certainty in his eyes. Not certainty that he would be saved. He knew he was going to die, but certainty that his death would mean something. Certainty that humanity would respond. Certainty that the Council had just made the worst mistake in its entire history, that look haunted. Zinvest dreams every single night. Somewhere out in the darkness, humanity was coming for them. He was sure of it now. The silence from Earth was not acceptance. It was preparation. The humans were planning something so massive and so terrible that they did not dare risk even a whisper of warning. Zinveth doubled the patrols again. He tripled the sensor coverage. He demanded reports every hour instead of every day. But no matter how hard he looked, he could not see the ghosts moving through his territory. He could not detect the 5,000 ships positioning themselves for the attack. He could not find the infiltration teams already, walking among his own people. The humans had learned patience from their long history of war. They had learned to wait and plan and prepare. They had learned that the best revenge was the kind your enemy never saw coming, and now they were ready. Admiral Grace Holloway reviewed the final reports in her command bunker. Beneath the Swiss Alps, every piece was in place. Every ship was in position. Every team was ready to move. She thought about Daniel Price one last time. She remembered his laugh and his kindness and his unshakable belief that humanity could find its place among the stars through peace and friendship. The Council had murdered that dream, along with the man who carried it. Now there would be no more peace, no more friendship, no more asking for permission to exist. Holloway opened a secure channel to the entire Shadow Fleet. All units, this is Admiral Holloway. Execute Phase 1 in 12 hours. Acknowledge with silence. Across the galaxy, nearly 5,000 human warships received the order. None of them made a sound. The ghosts were ready to become nightmares. The attack began at 0600 Galactic Standard Time. It happened across 37 worlds at exactly the same moment. On Nexus Prime, the lights went out without any warning. The entire station plunged into complete darkness. Emergency systems tried to activate, but they failed to. Communications collapsed. Security networks went offline. The most powerful political center in the known galaxy became blind and deaf in the span of 3 seconds. In the council chamber, the delegates woke from their sleep cycles to find themselves surrounded by shadows. Their personal shields had been deactivated. Their guards lay unconscious on the floor. And standing at every entrance were figures in black armor carrying weapons that hummed with deadly energy. Humans Commander Peter Walsh led the infiltration team on Nexus Prime. He was a former Special Forces operative who had spent 18 months posing as a maintenance worker on the station. He was 42 years old and built like a heavyweight boxer. He moved through the darkness with absolute precision and zero hesitation. Secure the perimeter, he ordered his team through hand signals. Non-lethal methods, unless necessary. We want them alive. His team of 20 soldiers fanned out through the complex. They disabled security systems and neutralized guards with stun weapons. They had trained for this mission for years. Every corridor was memorized. Every guard rotation was known. Every weakness had been studied and exploited. Within 12 minutes, the entire council complex was under human control. High Arbiter Zinvith was dragged from his private chambers by 2 soldiers. They forced him to walk through the dark hallways until they reached the council chamber. There he found his fellow delegates already assembled. They were seated in their usual places, but now they were prisoners instead of rulers. Zinveth struggled against the hands holding him. What is the meaning of this outrage? This is an act of war against the entire Galactic Council. A figure stepped forward from the shadows at the center of the chamber. The emergency lights flickered on just enough to reveal her face. Admiral Grace Holloway stood before them in her formal uniform. The insignia of United Earth Command gleamed on her chest. Her silver hair was pulled back tight. Her storm gray eyes showed no emotion at all. "No, Arbiter," she said calmly. "This is not an act of war. This is a response to one." She gestured with one hand and a holographic display activated above the chamber floor. It showed the execution of Daniel Price playing on repeat, the blade falling, the body crumpling, the blood spreading across the polished floor. "You murdered our ambassador," Holloway continued. "An unarmed man on a peaceful diplomatic mission. You did it publicly as a message to humanity. You thought it would frighten us into accepting our cage." She paused and let the silence stretch out. "You thought wrong." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were unfolding at the same moment. On the Kethra homeworld, human infiltrators seized control of their primary defense grid. The insectoid species woke to find their orbital weapons pointed at their own cities. Their military commanders received a simple message: Stand down or die. Among the Volmori sabotage teams. Deactivated the magnetic containment systems protecting their leadership caste. For the first time in 3,000 years, the gaseous beings were vulnerable. They could be dispersed with a single explosive charge. They knew it, and the humans knew it too. On the Archon colony world's power stations went dark. Communication relays exploded. Military bases found their weapons locked and their vehicles disabled. Chaos spread faster than any army could march. Every single council species found itself compromised in some critical way. Their most protected systems had been breached. Their most powerful leaders were suddenly helpless. 50 years of human planning and preparation paid off in a single devastating hour, and still the Shadow Fleet had not revealed itself. How is this possible? Counselor Methrix demanded from his seat. His mandibles clicked frantically with fear and confusion. Your fleet is confined to your home system. Our sensors would have detected any military movement. You have only 47 ships. Admiral Holloway smiled, but there was no warmth in it at all. Your sensors detect what we allow them to detect, Counselor. For 50 years we have been building and planning and preparing for exactly this moment. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon, every strategy, all of it invisible to your mighty council and your superior technology. She began to walk slowly around the chamber. Her boots echoed on the floor with each step. The delegates watched her with growing terror in their alien eyes. You believed you knew everything about humanity. You studied our history and saw our wars. You watched our conflicts and counted our weapons. You decided we were dangerous animals that needed to be caged. She stopped in front of Zinveth and looked directly into his 4 black eyes. But you missed something important, Arbiter. You saw our capacity for destruction, but you failed to understand our capacity for patience. You saw our talent for violence, but you ignored our genius for planning. You thought 47 ships meant we were weak. She leaned closer to him. We wanted you to think that. In deep space, Captain? Nathan Grant stood on the bridge of the Resolute and watched his tactical displays light up with confirmation signals. Phase 1 was complete across all target worlds. The Council's leadership was neutralized. Their defensive networks were compromised. Their ability to coordinate a response had been crippled. It was time for Phase 2. All ships to cloak on my mark, Nathan ordered through the fleet-wide channel. Weapons hot. Engage designated targets. Show them what we really brought to this fight. He paused for just one heartbeat. Mark. Across the void, nearly 5,000 human warships shimmered into existence at the same moment. They appeared from nothing like ghosts becoming solid. They materialized throughout Council space in positions that should have been impossible to reach. They surrounded military installations and orbital platforms and fleet cores, and then they opened fire. The first wave of attacks targeted military assets only. Defense platforms exploded in balls of flame. Weapon satellites were torn apart by precise strikes. Fleet anchorages became graveyards of burning ships. Before a single vessel could launch, the Council forces tried to respond, but they were blind and confused. Their communications were jammed. Their sensor networks fed them false information. Their commanders had no idea where the enemy was, or how many ships they faced. Human vessels darted through the chaos with perfect coordination. They struck hard and fast, and then vanished before retaliation could find them. Their stealth technology made them nearly impossible to track. Their weapons were more advanced than anything the Council had ever encountered. Archon 3rd Fleet is scrambling from Sector 7. Lisa reported from her station on the Resolute. Task Force Delta engage and delay them, Nathan ordered immediately. Buy us time for the Vanguard to reach its position. The Vanguard was the largest ship humanity had ever constructed. It was 3 kilometers long and bristled with weapons, but its true purpose was not combat. It was a delivery system for something far worse than any gun or missile. The Prometheus device? Sir, incoming transmission from Admiral Holloway, Lisa announced. Nathan nodded. Put her through. Holloway's face appeared on the screen. Behind her, the Council delegates sat in stunned silence, watching their empire burn on the displays around them. Captain Grant. Status of the primary objective? Vanguard is en route, Admiral. Estimated arrival at target coordinates in 4 hours. We are clearing a path through enemy resistance now. Excellent. Make certain nothing stops that ship, Nathan. The Council needs to understand exactly what they have unleashed upon themselves. Understood, Admiral. Nothing will get through. Grant out. He turned to face his bridge crew. Every single one of them knew what was coming. Every single one of them had volunteered for this mission anyway. You heard the Admiral. All ships form defensive formation around the Vanguard. Protect it with your lives if necessary. Nothing touches that ship until it reaches the target. The human fleet moved with perfect precision. Hundreds of warships surrounded the massive Vanguard like wolves, protecting their pack leader. They carved a path through Council space. Leaving destruction in their wake, the galaxy had sentenced humanity to a cage. Now humanity was burning that cage to the ground, and they were just getting started. The Vanguard arrived at its destination exactly on schedule. 4 hours of brutal combat had cleared the path. Dozens of human ships had been destroyed in the fighting. Hundreds of brave men and women had given their lives to protect the massive vessel as it traveled through enemy space. But the Vanguard had made it through without a single scratch on its hull. Now it hung in the darkness of space, facing its target. The target was not a planet. It was not a space station. It was not an enemy fleet. It was a star. The star at the heart of the Archon Dominion's home system blazed with golden light. It had burned for 5 billion years. It provided warmth and energy to 6 inhabited worlds. 12 billion Archon citizens depended on its light for their survival. Dr. Helen Morris stood in the Vanguard's command center, surrounded by banks of complex equipment. She was 54 years old, with hair that had turned white before its time. Her eyes carried the weight of what she had created and what she was about to do with it. Prometheus device is armed and ready, she reported through a secure channel 2. Admiral Holloway, back on Nexus. Prime, on your command, it will begin a controlled stellar cascade in the target star. The process will take approximately 72 hours to complete. And after 72 hours, Holloway asked Helen paused before answering. The star will collapse into a white dwarf. All planets in the system will be sterilized by radiation. The entire system will become permanently uninhabitable. Nothing will survive. Silence hung over the channel for a long moment. Helen had designed the Prometheus device as a deterrent. She had built it hoping it would never actually be used. She had told herself that its mere existence would be enough to prevent any species from ever threatening humanity. The threat of stellar annihilation would keep them safe. Now she was about to murder a star. She was about to render an entire solar system lifeless forever. Billions of people would die if they could not escape in time. Brio, she said quietly. Are we certain there is no other way? Holloway's response came after a long pause. The Council executed our ambassador and declared our species unfit to exist. They gave us no trial, no appeal, no chance to defend ourselves. If we show weakness now, then every predator in the galaxy will see humanity as easy prey. She took a breath before continuing. We must become the thing they feared we were. Only then will they leave us alone. Only then will humanity be safe. Helen closed her eyes. She thought about her daughter back on Earth. She thought about the world she was trying to protect. She thought about the billions of Archon lives that would end because of her invention. Understood, Admiral, she finally said. She opened her eyes and looked at her team. Men and women who had dedicated their lives to science were now being asked to perform an act of destruction. Beyond anything in history, they looked back at her with faces full of doubt and fear and grim determination. Begin the countdown, Helen ordered. The Prometheus device activated with a low hum that vibrated through the entire ship. Dozens of smaller components launched from the Vanguard and spread outward toward the star. They were gravitational manipulators designed to alter the fundamental forces holding the star together. They would disrupt the delicate balance between fusion pressure and gravitational collapse. They would kill a sun. On Nexus Prime High Arbiter Zinveth watched the tactical displays with growing horror. His 4 black eyes could not look away from the images showing the Vanguard in position near his people's home star. This cannot be happening, he breathed. Admiral. Holloway stood beside him with her arms crossed. Her face showed no emotion at all, and yet it is. You would murder billions of innocent people, Zinvith said. His voice cracked with desperation. Civilians who had nothing to do with your ambassador's death. Children who have never harmed anyone. You would kill them all? We have given them 72 hours to evacuate, Holloway replied calmly. That is more mercy than you showed Daniel Price. He did not even get 72 seconds. Cannot possibly evacuate 12 billion people in 72 hours. It is impossible. No, you cannot evacuate them. Perhaps you should have considered that possibility before you sentenced an entire species to imprisonment without cause. Holloway's voice hardened like steel. You judged us for our history of violence. You called us dangerous and decided we must be contained like animals. Now you will see what dangerous truly means. This is genocide. Zinveth screamed the word. This is consequence. Holloway turned to face him directly. Her gray eyes bore into his black ones. Every action has a consequence, Arbiter. You took our future from us, without any provocation. Now we are taking yours. She paused to let the words sink in. But we are not without mercy. Tell your people to flee. Broadcast the evacuation order to every ship and every station in the system. Those who escape will not be harmed. We want no more death than absolutely necessary to make our point. Necessary? Zinveth's voice was barely a whisper now. You speak of destroying an entire star system as necessary. Your council made it necessary the moment you decided humanity had no right to exist among you. Holloway leaned closer to the trembling Arbiter. We tried peace. We sent an ambassador with open hands and an open heart. You cut off his head and threw his body away like garbage. She straightened up and looked around at all the assembled delegates. You should have killed us all when you had the chance, because now we are going to teach the entire galaxy what happens when you underestimate humanity. The evacuation of the Archon home system was pure chaos. 12 billion citizens scrambled for whatever ships they could find. Emergency vessels launched by the thousands from every planet and moon and orbital station. Civilian transports packed themselves far beyond safe capacity. Families were separated in the panic. People trampled each other, trying to reach the spaceports. The rich and powerful escaped first. They had private ships and advance warning. They fled outward from their dying system without looking back. The poor and the weak were left behind. They crowded into public shelters and prayed for rescue ships that might never come. They watched the countdown timer that human forces had broadcast across every channel. 72 hours. Then 70. Then 60-5. Time was running out. Throughout the galaxy, every spacefaring species watched the crisis unfold. News broadcasts showed the desperate evacuation. They showed the vanguard hovering near the Archon star like an executioner waiting to swing its blade. They showed the gravitational manipulators, slowly spreading through the stellar corona. Humanity was about to do something no species had ever done before. They were going to kill a star. Many species sent ships to help with the evacuation. Old enemies and rivals put aside their differences to save as many Archon lives as possible. Cargo vessels and passenger liners and even military ships all rushed toward the doomed system. But it was not enough. It could never be enough. When the 72 hours ended, the Prometheus device completed its work. The gravitational manipulators activated simultaneously and disrupted the fusion reactions at the star's core. The delicate balance that had sustained the star for billions of years collapsed in moments. The star died. Its outer layers blasted outward in a wave of radiation that sterilized everything within 2 light hours. Ships that had not escaped far enough were vaporized instantly. Planets that had supported life for millennia became scorched rocks. Tumbling through space, the core collapsed into a white dwarf, a dense ball of dead matter that would never again provide warmth or light to living worlds. The Archon Dominion's ancestral home was gone forever. 4 billion people escaped the destruction. 8 billion did not. Admiral Holloway watched the final reports come in. From her command post on Nexus Prime, the mission was complete. The Archon home system was dead. Humanity had proven exactly how dangerous it could be. She felt no joy, no satisfaction. Only a cold emptiness that she knew would never go away. But she had done what was necessary. She had protected her species. She had ensured that no one would ever again underestimate humanity. The galaxy had wanted monsters. Now they had them. 1 year had passed since humanity killed a star. The Galactic Council still existed, but it was only a shadow of what it had once been. The 12 great species that had ruled 1,000 star systems now gathered in a much smaller chamber on a station far from the ruins of Archon space. Their fleets were broken. Their confidence was shattered. Their belief in their own superiority had been burned away along with the Archon sun, and now they met with a 13th delegate sitting among them. Admiral Grace Holloway had become humanity's permanent ambassador to the Council. She sat in a chair that had been built specifically for her at the center of the chamber. She wore the formal uniform of United Earth and carried no weapons of any kind. She did not need them. The motion before this council is the ratification of the Treaty of Earth, announced the new High Arbiter. He was a Volmori elder who had replaced the disgraced Zinveth after the war. His gaseous form swirled nervously within its containment sphere as he spoke. Under the terms of this treaty, humanity will be granted full membership in the Galactic Council with all rights and responsibilities. Human territorial claims will be recognized and protected by law. Trade agreements will be negotiated in good faith between all parties. And no military or political action will be taken against Earth or its colonies without unanimous council approval. The delegates exchanged uncomfortable glances with each other. None of them wanted to be here. None of them wanted to welcome the species that had committed the greatest act of destruction in galactic history. But they had no choice. The Shadow Fleet still existed somewhere out in the darkness. Nearly 5,000 warships that could appear anywhere and strike anything and vanish before any retaliation could find them. And somewhere in a hidden location known only to a handful of humans, another Prometheus. Device waited patiently for activation. The Council had learned its lesson. Humanity could not be caged. Humanity could not be threatened. Humanity could only be negotiated with as equals. All in favor of the motion, the Arbiter asked. 12 hands rose around the chamber. The vote was unanimous. The motion carries. Humanity is hereby recognized as a full member of the Galactic Council with all associated rights and privileges. Holloway rose from her seat and inclined her head respectfully toward the assembly. On behalf of Earth and all her people, I thank the Council for its wisdom. We look forward to a long and peaceful partnership with all of you. She sat back down, and her face revealed nothing of what she felt inside. After the formal session ended, the Volmori Arbiter approached her privately. His containment sphere floated beside her as she walked through the station's corridors. You must understand that this changes nothing, the Arbiter said. His voice was transmitted through magnetic vibrations that Holloway's implant translated into words. The other species will never truly accept humanity. They will fear you forever. They will hate you in secret. They will plot against you whenever they believe they can succeed. I know, Holloway replied calmly. Then why do this? Why seek membership in a body that despises everything you represent? Holloway considered the question carefully before answering. Because fear is a foundation and not a final destination. Today they fear us. Tomorrow perhaps they will come to respect us. In a century they may even learn to trust us. She paused and looked out a window at the stars beyond. Humanity has always played the long game, Arbiter. We measure our plans in generations rather than years. We did not survive ice ages and plagues and wars and our own worst impulses by thinking only of today. We survived by building toward tomorrow. If the other species move against you again despite your power, Holloway turned to face the Arbiter directly. Her gray eyes were hard as stone, and we will remind them why they should not. The Arbiter's gaseous form rippled with what might have been a shudder. He said nothing more and floated away down the corridor. He had received his answer. Back on Earth, Captain. Nathan Grant stood on a hill overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The sun was setting over waters that had witnessed humanity's entire journey from primitive creatures to masters of the stars. Orange and red light painted the clouds above him. Lisa Parks stood beside him. She was his wife now. They had married 3 months ago in a small private ceremony, attended only by those who had served with them through the darkest days of the war. She held his hand as they watched the day end together. "Do you think it was worth it?" Lisa asked quietly. Nathan did not answer immediately. He thought about the Archon homeworld that was now nothing but frozen rocks orbiting a dead star. He thought about the 8 billion people who had died because they could not escape in time. He thought about the fear he saw in alien eyes now, whenever humans walked among them. "I do not know," he admitted finally. "I hope so. I hope that what we did means our children will not have to fight the same battles we fought. I hope they will live in a galaxy that respects humanity instead of one that tries to cage us. And if it does not work out that way, if the fear we created turns into anger and the anger turns into another war," Nathan squeezed her hand gently, "then we will fight again, as many times as we have to, until either they accept us as equals or there is no one left to stand against us." Lisa leaned her head against his shoulder. "That is a very dark way to look at the future. It's a realistic way. But I would rather build toward hope than surrender to despair." He smiled faintly as he spoke. "That is what humanity does, Lisa. We survive everything the universe throws at us. We adapt to every challenge. We overcome every obstacle. It is what we have always done, and what we will always do." He looked up at the first stars appearing in the darkening sky above them. "The Council called us too dangerous to join their civilization. They were right to be afraid of us. But they were wrong about the reason why." "What do you mean?" "The dangerous thing about humanity is not our capacity for destruction. Every species can destroy. The dangerous thing about us is our absolute refusal to accept any cage, no matter how strong. Our complete certainty that we deserve to stand among the stars as equals to anyone." Lisa was quiet for a moment as she considered his words. "And now that we have proven that point with fire and death, now we prove them wrong about what kind of species we truly are. Day by day, and year by year, and generation by generation, we show them that the monsters they feared can also build and create and cooperate. We show them that humanity is more than just violence and destruction. Do you really believe that is possible after everything we have done?" Nathan turned to look at his wife, the woman he loved, the future mother of his children, the partner who would stand beside him no matter what came next. "I have to believe it," he said softly, "because the only alternative is eternal war, and I have seen enough war to last me 1,000 lifetimes." They stood together in silence as night fell completely over Earth. The ocean waves crashed against the shore below them in an endless rhythm that had continued since before humanity existed. Above them, the stars filled the sky from horizon to horizon. Some of those stars held enemies who would never forgive what humanity had done. Some held potential allies who might one day see humans as partners rather than threats. Some held mysteries that no species had yet discovered. All of them held futures that had not yet been written, and humanity would face them all. Dangerous and determined and completely unwilling to ever be contained again, the galaxy had tried to cage them once. It would never make that mistake again.